I'm a sponsored athlete for Adidas. I'm a celebrity trainer. My clients include people like Bradley Cooper, Kate Hudson, P. Diddy, and some of the world's biggest professional athletes. I'm the CEO and founder of Clutch Body Shop. My mission is to change the way you think about your body and what is possible. I'm Ashley Conrad. Growing up, my parents were the type of parents that would never let us be inside watching TV. We always had to be outside doing something. So the precedent was set really early on in my childhood, and from as early as I can remember, even 3 years old, I was enrolled in soccer. So sports became a part of my life. Like, they've been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. It is still such an important part of who I am, and has really shaped a lot of the methodologies and especially the psychological aspect of a lot of the stuff that I do today with clients. From a very, very small age, my dream, if someone asked me, what do you want to be when you grow up, it was always, I'm going to be a professional athlete. So even at like 7, 8 years old, and it didn't matter what sport, I just knew I was going pro. So I remember when I was like 8 years old, I was on an all-boys baseball team and ended up making all-stars. And so now I'm on this all-boys all-star team, and the first day home from practice that day, I was like crying because all the boys were so mean to me. And I remember my dad looked at me and he goes, honey, they're just jealous because they all know that you're gonna be a professional athlete. It was really special because my parents always supported that dream and me in athletics. And then when I moved into kind of my high school years, basketball had become the central sport.
Santa Catalina works it around to their sharpshooter, Ashley Conrad. Just inside the arc, that's a long two.
I began adhering to a much stricter training regimen. Going into my freshman year, it was the first time I had lifted weights. It was the first time that I began to kind of understand that outside of actually playing and practicing the sport, there was kind of this whole other world and way to train your body to become a better athlete. About my freshman or sophomore year, I said, you know what, I know exactly what college I want to go to. I want to go to USC. And so my goal from there on out was just, how am I going to be able to play basketball at USC? And at the time, it was nobody thought that it was actually possible. And I was a great athlete for the small town I came from, but when you consider the rest of America and the recruitment pool that they have to pull from, it was kind of one of those things where everybody was like, yeah, that's great, USC, whatever. So that was kind of the beginning of a 4-year journey for me of training by the time I left like a professional athlete. And a lot of my methodologies around nutrition and training specifically, I still pull from those years of training for that dream. Well, before I got to USC, it was really about, okay, here's the end goal. The end goal is to play basketball here. Okay, what is going to need to happen in order to make that dream a reality? And so at the time, I had this really amazing coach. He really taught me how to look at what the long term, and then how we're gonna break that down short term. So every day was something different. So by the time I was a junior in high school, I had not only transformed my body, but going into training sessions, all I thought about was where I wanted to go. That was it. And it wasn't just USC, it was the next game, playoffs, all the visualization that went on in how am I gonna get here? Learning in my teen years, okay, you have something you wanna do, it's not gonna come easily. It may take you 4 years, 5 years, but if you set that plan up and you know what you're supposed to do every single day and you're willing to actually commit to that every single day, at the end of those 4 years, I ended up playing basketball at USC, but it was only because I had that plan. For me, going into SC, I was aware of the athletes that they were bringing in. The bar was set extremely high. So once I got there, it was, I would do everything that the team would do, but because I felt like I was really the underdog, because I was never the fastest. I had trained really hard to get faster, but there's certain people that just have that genetic advantage over you that there's really not a whole lot you can do. So for me, I would go from our conditioning workouts to basketball practice, and then we would lift, and then I would do another hour and a half, 2 hours of working out outside of what the team would do. So while I was at USC, I actually sustained a couple of pretty serious injuries. One was a knee and one was a back injury. And doctors basically told me, if you continue to play, you're basically not going to be able to go on leisurely runs. By the time you're 30, you're not going to have any cartilage left in your knees. So I had at the time been going to an amazing sports medicine doctor who saved me from a number of from surgery, actually having to operate on the knee. And through watching the way that he was able to dissect the human body and look at, okay, here's a different way that we can treat this. And through rehabilitation exercises, here's what we can do to prevent you from having to have surgery. I thought, you know what, if I can't be a professional athlete because of these injuries that I've sustained, I think I'd like to work with athletes. I'd like to train them, and I'd like to help rehabilitate them the same way this doctor has done with me. So with that, after I got done at SC, I ended up enrolling in medical school, and that's really what I thought my future was going to be. While I was in medical school, I wasn't training 6-7 hours a day anymore. And obviously when you're not doing that and you're now eating whatever you want, I had been so disciplined for so long that I kind of allowed myself to say, you know what, I'm just gonna eat what I wanna eat when I wanna eat it. I found myself suddenly 20 pounds heavier. And I woke up one day and looked in the mirror and took a good hard look and thought, it's time to do something about this. This is not, I really didn't recognize myself because my body had never been as heavy as I was at that time. I was about 175 pounds, and on my frame, it's pretty big. So without having all that time to train, I thought, you know what I need to do is I've got about 45 minutes to an hour every day. What can I do to take this weight off? So I sat down and I combined everything that I knew from my background at USC, all the kinesiology classes I took, all the exercise prescription and nutrition. Then I drew from everything I was learning in the pre-med classes and everything that I knew as my background as an athlete, and I put together this program. And at the time, it was funny because I don't even think I even realized what I had just created. But as I began to go put myself through this program and watched how dramatically, even within the first couple of days, my body was beginning to change without working out 2 times a day, without, depleting myself of carbohydrates or water or anything. Just really, my metabolism was just speeding up. And so I thought, wow, I think I've really got something here. And as I began to continue to go through the program, I began to think, you know what? This is something that in LA could be extremely valuable. I think that I could have something that nobody else has. I made the decision that this is what I wanted to do. The problem was at the time that there were such high expectations from my family and from everyone around me. Everybody was so excited about the fact that I was going to be this doctor, and it was so amazing, because there's a lot of disappointment when I decided to kind of walk away from basketball. Because when you've been an athlete your whole life and you've been praised for being such a great athlete, and then you kind of walk away from that, it's like, well, what makes me special if I don't have that? But I knew, I said, I think this is something that I have to do. So I flew home. And I'll never forget, I sat across the table from my mom and my dad, and who have always been so supportive of every decision I've ever made and so supportive of every dream I've had, because I've always been an underdog and they've been always in my corner. And I sat across from them and I said, I am gonna drop out of school. And their faces just dropped. And they said, and why is that? I said, because I'm gonna be a trainer. I said, and I've got this program, and I'm telling you, it's something that is going to be huge. And I think if I just focus on this 100% and I execute this plan that I put together, I think that by the time I would be getting out of school, I'm going to be really far ahead. And they said, you're making a huge mistake. You're throwing away your future. How are you going to do this? And it was, looking back on it, I think any parent, myself included, would go, you're going to drop out of school? You don't even have a job at a gym. You have no experience at this. How are you going to make this happen? And I honestly, I didn't have the answers that they wanted, but I remember I just knew that this was what I was meant to do. And I looked at them and I said, You just have to trust me. I know what I'm doing. After I had had that conversation, I withdrew myself from school and I began looking for a job training. And I thought, I was a basketball player at USC, who wouldn't want to hire me? I have all this background in training. It's gonna be easy for me to get a job at a gym. But the truth was, I could not get a job. Like literally, not a single gym in Los Angeles would hire me. And so that was kind of like my first lesson in complete humility. People don't know this, but I had to go into 24-hour fitness in Hollywood every day for 2 weeks and literally go into the fitness manager and say, I need you to hire me. So finally, after begging them, finally gave me a job. And I then had to sit through like a week of training, 8 hours a day, where they describe to you how you train somebody. And it was just further confirmation for me that I was on the right path, because the way that they were dictating to the class that you're supposed to train somebody was completely opposite of the program that I put together and what I know to be true. Literally within the first month, I had more clients than I knew what to do with. As I was building out clients at the gym, people were getting these really incredible results. People were seeing a difference in their body in the first 3, 4, 5 days. And word at that time began to spread around Los Angeles, kind of like wildfire, about this young trainer who had this program that had the ability to transform somebody's body in less than a week. And so things were just kind of starting to kind of bust out at the seams. And I get a call one day, and at first I actually thought it was a prank call, but I get a call. It was this huge A-list celebrity. And they said, I've got a film coming up that I need to train for, and I've only got a couple of weeks. Can we do a training session, and I'll see if I like what you do? Sure. What gym do you work out of? And I said, we're not gonna go to the gym, just give me the address to your house. So I showed up that day purposely with a medicine ball in one hand and a resistance band in the other. And I show up to the door, she opens the door, and literally, like, I'm standing there with 2 pieces of equipment, and she literally does this. It goes, what are you gonna do with that? And I'm like, we're gonna train with it. He goes, you think you're gonna be able to kick my ass with that? I train like 5 days a week. I said, we'll see. So, go out to the backyard, set the equipment down, and start putting her through the circuit. And about 2 minutes in, she was hunched over, pouring sweat, looks up at me like this, and she goes, what are you doing for the next 4 months? I need you to come to set with me. And I said, let's do it. And so that was the beginning of my career in celebrity training. And I texted my mom and I said, I'm on a private jet right now, flying to Boston. I told you that it was gonna be okay. And from that point on, that was really the beginning kind of everything, my entire career. And also it was my family, obviously from that point on, was extremely supportive, because they were like, how the hell did you go from having nothing to this in 6 months? It was just completely baffling to sort of everyone around me. My dream now, which it has always been, even at that time, was to be able to take what I've done behind the scenes with these now, huge A-list celebrities, professional athletes, these huge transformations, and give it to everybody. So the mission is really just to inspire people through exercise and through fitness and through nutrition, because having those things without being inspired, if you can inspire somebody, you can actually change their life. Six-pack abs aren't going to change anybody's life. But if you can get them the six-pack abs and you can actually create a positive change within them, that person can do whatever they want to do in life, And my life has been a perfect example of that. Ashley Conrad, we're going to be everywhere. You're reaching in the fridge for a piece of cheesecake. I'm going to be there on the Bodybuilding.com site watching you. So keep going to Bodybuilding.com. We're going to get you the tools, the weapons, the content, the truth that you need to make that change. And we're going to do everything together. It's going to be fun.